Hello everyone, I'm Rob, Managing Editor and Programmer Short of the Week, and welcome to the latest video in our Short Films Explained series. As that name suggests, the motivation behind these interviews is to introduce you, our YouTube audience, to some of the filmmakers behind the most popular or most discussed shorts on our channel. So with that in mind, we've invited director Matthew Richards on to discuss his haunting short film, The Disappearance of Willie Bingham. If you're yet to watch the film, there's a clip coming up next and a link to the short in the description below. Right after we give you that little teaser of the film, we'll jump straight into the interview.
Surviving family members determine how far the surgeries will go.
This is what my criminal ways got me.
So these questions are all inspired by the comment section of our YouTube upload of The Disappearance of Willie Bingham. And one of the common threads in those discussions revolves around the kind of meaning behind your film. Personally, I think it's really good for films to be open to interpretation. But I was wondering, what was the inspiration behind this story? What made you want to bring this particular story to the screen?
There was a really influential Metallica song years and years ago. Landmine has taken my sight, taken my speech, taken my hearing. I heard that when I was 15, and that always sort of stuck with me, this feeling of the helplessness of being trapped within a system, being kept alive against your will. When I connected with an American writer who was writing short stories, he had the original short story for that. So we developed it out of that, and I was struck by his kind of black, satirical kind of tone of that, and he was unafraid to just go right in there. A moral puzzle for an audience to kind of fall into and see how they feel and try to kind of make them squirm a little bit.
Yeah, well, you definitely make them squirm, that's for sure. Again, going through the YouTube comments, there's a lot of kind of discussions around how to feel about what they're watching. And the film very much focuses on the punishment of this guy and not really the crime in which he committed. Did you ever think of telling the story in another way?
I was asked to do that subsequently after the film was finished. Someone else wanted to tell it from the other point of view, where we see a lot more of what went on, but it was less interesting to me. The thing with punishment was that, what about the one person who is innocent, who gets punished by this system? And so I wanted the focus to be on what it's like going through a system that you have no control over. But I'm just putting enough information in there to tell you that, yes, he is guilty, but we don't want to focus on that too much. We want to focus on the system and the dehumanization that happens within such a system.
Yeah, it's really interesting to know that someone approached you to tell the story that way.
From the family's perspective.
Oh, okay, interesting. Yeah. I mean, I can totally see why you wouldn't do that, but that's where a lot of the YouTube comments kind of interest is. You know, they often want things to be very black and white. So yeah, one of our YouTube commenters asked, are we supposed to feel sympathy?
For me, I'm asking you to question your humanity when you watch the film. It's not about feeling sorry for him. It's about what is humanity and our sense of that, and how far are we willing to go to enact justice, and how that just, in a system that's so barbaric that it eventually destroys everyone who's connected to it. But I was more interested in the subtleties within a system to explore that.
But I feel like a lot of the impact comes from watching the family. A lot of our commenters have kind of talked about how well you handled the deterioration of the father in particular. So can you talk a little about your decision making around this aspect?
It was like, how can we show the impact? And I wanted to show the impact on the surgeon. I wanted to show the impact on the nurse who's looking after him in the bar. And then, and also with the dropping off of daughter after daughter, it's like the idea of a thing versus the reality of the thing. And on paper, this thing that you sign off on, okay, yes, great, I'm going to get vengeance here. I'm going to feel, justice is served, and he's just not getting it. And he's been told by this system that he's going to get that, and it's going to cost him everything. And you still don't have a feeling that satisfies you.
Yeah, I feel like the parallels between obviously what happens to Willie and what happens to the father, both of them kind of disappearing over the length of the film, it is really striking. It feels like you go through a real journey in such a short time.
With the supervisor as well, it was, and I don't think I quite nailed it with that, but it was trying to look at, I was just doing my job and how the system kind of just screws him over as well. But it's bureaucracy. He's a bureaucrat. He's maintaining arm's distance.
I mean, yeah, there's so much going on. One of the other aspects that the YouTube audience is really interested in is the visual transformation of Willie Bingham. You know, we go from seeing a complete man to seeing, you know, what is left of him. You know, a lot of people are commenting, you make it look and feel so realistic. So can we ask about how you managed to do that?
You know, it's interesting, in the original short story, at the end of it, it's just two eyeballs in a little box. And it's just like, I can't do that. Like it's and I wanted to ground it in a bit more reality than that. The visual effects person that I had on board for all of the pre-production stuff pulled out the day before the shoot. So I ended up having to do VFX supervising myself, which was, I had to kind of change my tact and kind of go, what do I know that I can get away with if I can't find someone else to do it? And so it came down to less is more. Originally, I was like, I want to try and do as much as I can practically. And we had an amputee come out on set as well. And I just couldn't get the arm in the right position and make it look like it was Willie's arm. And we ended up just using that as a reference more for lighting and stuff. A bit like that old Hitchcockian thing where it's like, what's more horrific to see? Is it the actual car accident, or is it the sound of the brakes?
You may proceed.
The look on the kid's face as you hear the impact and everything. Where does the horror play out? And I've always been interested in psychological horror from that kind of point of view. Where do you want it to play, and how's it going to affect you?
Yeah, I do agree. Even though I would quite like to see some eyeballs in a box. That would have been see how you managed to pull that off. Final question. Obviously, a lot of people who watch short films always want more from a story. And, you know, this is definitely the case with the disappearance of Willie Bingham. Have you ever thought about expanding the story? Have there been any discussions around?
There were discussions, but I just felt like the strength of the idea is in its compact nature. And to extrapolate that, I think it would lose some power. But in terms of a long thing, no, I don't think so.
Yeah, it's interesting to hear, actually. I spoke to Tim Egan, who directed the film Curve. And, you know, it's another film that's done really well on YouTube. And he said something very similar. There were kind of talks to develop it, but he felt like the story was contained and was powerful how it was.
Yeah, because I think what you end up doing is you end up just with these really long scenes of the whole prep and him going into the surgery. And when we wrote the script, there was a lot more kind of dialogue and stuff in there. And a lot of the bleak trajectory that it takes really comes down to my editor. I think we landed at a really nice compromise where you end up, some is told and then some you just watch play out, and you kind of need that to feel what the character's going through. Those kind of things that are really nice when you're working with other people and they bring their thing to the plate and you've got an idea, but as a director, it's really nice to kind of be open enough to kind of go, hey, you're really good at what you do too. Let's see where we land in here. And that's where the real nice, creative, fun stuff comes to play, you know.
I think that's the kind of the good thing about short film as well. There's a kind of freedom there that you don't have probably on bigger projects or more commercial projects. You know, you can take something and play with it a bit more. And it's kind of, I think for everyone probably working in short film, it's a chance to show your craft, isn't it? So, okay, well, thanks for joining us. Thanks so much for giving up your time.
Thanks so much, Rob.